Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Previously, we started seeing the light at the end of the tunnel at this first case here. That journalist, who I suspected pretty early on was the real killer, has taken the stand, and we're in the midst of cross-examining him. And now, we're pointing out that this pen that was found in the victim's hand, in the place that she fell, belonged to him. It bears his initials, and it has his company's logo on it, so there's no way it's not Raymond Bami's. Also, speaking of Raymond Bami, a YouTube comment pointed out to me that the pun in that name is Remember Me. Ray Mbami. Remember me. Ray Mbami, it's your best friend from school and all that. Oh god. Anyway, let's get going here. I think we might reach the second case in this game today. At the very least, this video will end with us transitioning to it, so I'm hyped. Mini Memo-san, do you recognize this fountain pen? This pen was found at the scene of Miss Brett's death. In fact, the murdered victim was gripping it in her hand as she died. What are you? If you look at the barrel of the pen, you'll notice that its owner's initials are engraved there. R.M. Yes, thank you for bringing that up, counsel. The initials of the accused, Raymond Bami. Is it a coincidence, I wonder, that your initials are also R.M.? No. Write in Mini Memo, R.M. That's horse done. Can't you see? One of the central tenets of Mini Memoism is being a pencil user. And yet, as the court will clearly be able to see on your right hand, there is a very obvious blue ink stain. It would appear that you must have rather carelessly left it somewhere recently. Your favorite fountain pen, that is. Horsey horse done! Mini Memo-san, is it not the case that before she died, you met with Giselle Brett in that beach hut? Objection! Why should we listen to this absurd nonsense? It's nothing but another excuse. Exactly. Shoyu News will stand behind me all the way. I deny everything. Well, no, Shoyu News is going to be your downfall here. There must be as many people with the initials RM as there are stars in the night sky. My initials are RW. Wait. No, it's not. Where did I get W from? The frick? No, my initials are RZ. What the Wow, my brain is weird. Okay. The defense has neither the time nor the inclination to count every star in the sky. Huh? And there's no need anyway, because this pen has more to tell. Yes, there is another clue. A clue that undeniably proves who its owner really is. In that case, counsel, the defense will now show the court where this alleged clue lies. Of course, Your Excellency. The clue on this fountain pen that clearly reveals its owner's identity is right here. Oh, right. I need to present it. Yeah, we already saw this. I'd quite like to skip if it could be so kind. There we go. As well as the initials, there is also an emblem on this fountain pen. An emblem that you will of course recognize, Mini Memo-san. Goodness me! It's the emblem of the Shoyu News. In other words, the owner of this pen is an employee of the Shoyu News, whose initials are RM. Suddenly, the stars in the night sky don't seem so numerous, do they? Well, Mini Memo-san, how do you respond? No! Order? Order. Explain yourself, witness. So this is how the mighty Supreme Court works, is it? Using coercive tactics to have well-meaning citizens reveal harmless secrets. You peeped on ladies in a bath hut. I've used nothing but honest tactics. All right then, fine. I won't try to hide it anymore. Yes, not long before that grim tragedy unfolded, I, a Shoyu News reporter, on behalf of the public, conducted an interview with the Englishwoman. An interview? You've never mentioned this before. When exactly was this? As I said, it was before that evil little student girl showed her face in the hut. It couldn't have lasted more than 2 or 3 minutes, that's all. It was just a brief exchange. But it came to nothing. And as we many moists? No, many memoists say, the people don't pay their dues for unworthy news. However insignificant you deem it to be, this court cannot overlook the meeting between yourself and the victim. You will testify now under oath about the precise nature of this meeting and what transpired. Got it. Yes, all right, but on one condition. Condition? In all good conscience, I couldn't speak out alone about this. You need to call back the earlier witness, Soseki Natsume-san. Soseki-san? Oh yes, according to my notes here, that man has a secret of his own, and brace yourselves because it's not a harmless one, it's big. What? What? Many memoism states that one man's secret is every other man's front page story. Very well. I will grant the witness's request in this instance. Officer, summon the earlier witness back to the stand. Soseki-san, hiding something? Who would have seen that coming? Oh god, you know what would be really funny? If it's the reveal that he had a ghostwriter. The idea of that is enough to make me laugh. I asked the Englishwoman for an interview, but she declined, so I left the hut without making a fuss. Then, watching secretly from outside, I saw the woman being stabbed and the other witnesses come running. The detective realized that the victim still had a pulse, so he ran off to fetch help. That's when this writer man here asked the woman a very significant question. But he didn't say anything about that in his testimony, which is why many memoism demands I reveal it now. You mean to say the victim? The victim regained consciousness? And when she did, you decided to ask her a question? That's, true, yes. Really? He did, and that's not all. The woman gave him a very definite answer. An answer that incriminates the accused. This is preposterous. Why am I only hearing about this now? Why didn't you mention this before, you yokel hack? It wasn't even a conversation. Yes, I did pose the withering English rose a question, I don't deny it. But she could no longer speak. She was barely conscious even. Counsel for the defense, I expect a thorough cross-examination to be conducted here. This court must and will know the truth. Absolutely, Your Excellency. The reporter is claiming that Miss Brett implicated Rabe somehow. What on earth could have happened in that hut? Well, this is interesting. I did not expect this to go here. I asked the Englishwoman for an interview, but she declined, so I left the hut without making a fuss.
Hold it!
You asked her for an interview, you say? Well, of course I did. I wanted to ask her about the incident she was involved in at the end of last year. About the case in which Dr. John H. Wilson lost his life. That's not the way I phrased it. Many memoism calls for straight talking. Why did you murder Dr. Wilson, is how I put it to her. Yes, that sort of talking is as straight as a ruler. Ask every question as if you're asking for a menu in a restaurant, I say. It's the best way. A veteran at the paper taught me that. And how did Miss Brett answer? With one simple phrase. Mystery is a woman's charm. Phew, that told me. So I waltzed right out of there. Really? Something about that doesn't quite seem to fit together. Leave every room as if you're waltzing in a dance hall, I say. It's the best way. A veteran at the paper taught me that. Who is this veteran? Then, watching secretly from outside, I saw the one being stabbed and the other witnesses come running.
Hold it!
That was very persistent of you, considering that Miss Brett had just turned you away. Persistence wins the prize. Many memoists will tell you that. Let them think you've left, and just when they lower their guard, that's when you swoop in for the scoop. And the fruits of your labor are all too apparent in this telling photograph. Though I'm sure the young yokel student would rather not be reminded of this damning evidence. Actually, it's thanks to that photograph that we managed to identify this witness. And now that you've found me, I'll tell you whatever you want to know. I've got nothing to hide. I'm sure. Please do go ahead, witness. The court is eager to hear what you have to say. Try to stop me. There's a story to tell here, and I'm going to tell it. The detective realized that the victim still had a pulse, so he ran off to fetch help.
Hold it!
And Soseki-san remained behind in the hut. That's right, yep, our author friend here was a blabbering wreck, shaking all over from his head to his toes, mustache twitching, eyes bulging. Not much has changed. What do you expect? You don't know the terrifying troubles that taunted me whilst traveling abroad. Back behind baleful bars. They'll be coming for me, surely. That's all I could think. I felt as though I were gasping for air, drowning in a sea of cold sweat. Poor Soseki-san. His experiences in London have scarred him deeply. As the world seemed to close in around me, I quietly recited a prayer to Amida Buddha. Eternal emptiness, empty eternity. The end is coming for me, surely. No sutras are to resound in my courtroom, please. And now, we come to the crucial part. That's when it happened. That's when this writer man here asked the woman a very significant question.
Hold it!
What question? What exactly did he say? Well now, you should hear that from the horse's mouth, I think. Don't you, Mr. Writer Man? Ugh! Out with it, you yokel hack. What did you say to her? What did you say to the dying Englishwoman? Well, in truth, I'd been catching crabs at the water's edge and building castles in the sand, you see. That's adorable. Well, the seaside is a place to be at leisure, I suppose, even for a grown man. But then, all of a sudden, from that little beach hut, a young girl's panic-stricken cries for help pierced the air. Ray, I ran up to the beach to see what was happening, to find the defendant leaning over the collapsed victim. As soon as Inspector Hosanaka saw Miss Brett on the ground, he sprinted off to get help. And then, just a moment later, I heard a faint moan. A moan from the dead Englishwoman. I nearly jumped out of my skin! But what did you ask her, Soseki-san? I asked her, who did this to you? A very pressing question. Don't protract this any longer. How did the woman respond? She didn't. She said nothing in response. But... When in the stand, you will answer the questions asked of you unambiguously. Now, without evasion or reticence, I demand that you amend your testimony. I will! I asked her, who did this to you? But she never replied.
Hold it!
So you tried to find out who the culprit was? He who asks a question is a fool for a minute, he who does not remains a fool forever. And having been labeled a criminal twice during my time in Great Britain, I was quick to make up my mind. Better to be a fool for a minute than remain a fool in prison forever. However, you've indicated that the victim failed to respond, is that correct? I know why. I know why the Englishwoman said nothing. She was ignoring me because of my stupid mustache, because I'm Japanese. Oh dear, Soseki-san has really developed a dislike for the English, it seems. Having read the report on his time in Great Britain, I can't say I'm surprised at his xenophobia. But the Englishwoman didn't ignore you at all, did she, Mr. Riderman? Huh? Well, yes, all right. She did respond in a manner of speaking, I suppose. She just lifted a trembling finger and pointed in the direction of the defendant.
Hold it!
Miss Brett pointed a finger at the defendant? Soseki-san, is that really true? It's not easy to stand here and say this, but when we first entered the beach hut, the Englishwoman was sprawled on the floor before us with the student girl standing on the far side of her. Uh-huh. And when I asked who did this to you, the Englishwoman summoned her last ounce of strength to point a trembling finger at the back of the hut. Uh-huh. Which was, it can't be denied, in the direction of the student girl who stands accused today. No. Soseki-san, why on earth did you neglect to mention this in your original testimony? But fiddlesticks, I say. This is not a British court of law. You will respond in Japanese. Oh, I had it right. The all caps is in English. Yes, of course. The Englishwoman did point her finger towards the back of the hut, but I was trembling, and she was trembling, and everything was a blur. And thinking about it, I feel as though perhaps she was pointing in a slightly different direction. Actually, no, not slightly, in a very different direction to where the student girl was standing. To somewhere at the back of the hut, but where nobody was standing at all. You mean that your memory of events and the direction in which the victim was pointing are both unclear? Yes, that's it, unclear. I'm very, very unclear.
Objection!
Your Excellency, surely this proves the matter beyond all reasonable doubt. Yes, the woman may barely have been conscious, and yes, perhaps her finger wavered slightly. But there can be no doubt that this was an attempt by the victim to confirm the identity of her assailant. Why? Because, as the court can see, there was no one other than the accused in the direction the victim was pointing. It is now abundantly clear that no one besides the accused could possibly have committed this crime. I am inclined to agree. And in the absence of any credible argument to the contrary, I believe we can now conclude this trial. No! No! The headline's writing itself. Dashing lawyers hopes dash, 92 point across the whole page. We'll do an extra edition. This is a serious blow, Susato. Unless we're able to identify the true culprit and unsubstantiate our claim with evidence, the judge will give his ruling and the trial will be over. But that's impossible, Father. We don't even know how the crime was committed yet. Impossible though the task may seem, we have no choice. We must think back over everything we've learned thus far. Somewhere in all those details, I'm confident we'll find the clue we need. Ray gave us her account of how events unfolded in the defendant's antechamber before this trial resumed. She told us what happened at the precise moment Miss Brett was killed. The Englishwoman was sitting at the back of the hut, listening to what I was saying. And then a moment later, she suddenly got to her feet, before collapsing on the floor in front of me, with a knife in her back. How could Miss Brett have been stabbed in the back in a beach hut that was empty but for herself and Ray? Somewhere amid all the information we've gathered so far, there must be an answer to that question. I take it then that the defense has nothing further to add. So, the gallant yokel student's luck finally runs out. I can't say I'm surprised. In that case, I'm ready to deliver my final verdict on this matter. This is a crucial turning point now. If I can't establish what really happened, it's over. Where was the real culprit hiding? And how did he or she stab the victim? I know how.
Objection!
Your Excellency, I respectfully ask you to postpone your adjudication for the time being. Oh? To what end, counsel? The defense would like to present the court with an alternative theory. An alternative theory that can explain who the victim was actually trying to implicate with her dying gesture.
Objection!
An alternative theory? Ha! None exists.
Objection!
There was someone else present at the scene who could have committed this crime. What? And the victim, Miss Brett, tried to reveal who it was to those around her at the time, by mustering all her remaining strength and pointing a trembling finger in the killer's direction. This is fiction, fantasy. Very well. As you seem so sure of yourself, counsel, I am prepared to hear your alternative theory. So, young Ryutaro Naruhodo? Yes, Your Excellency. You will present your latest theory to the court by means of this plan. At the moment the victim was stabbed, where exactly are you proposing the culprit was concealed? Boop.
Take that!
Naruhodo-san would never give up, and I'm a Naruhodo now. The true culprit who fatally stabbed Miss Brett was concealed in this location here. Are you mad, counsel? You're suggesting the culprit was outside the hut? What? Order! 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 But student lawyer Naruhodo-san, Esquire, that makes no sense at all. You've just pointed out the exact spot where I was hiding to get my scoop snap. But I didn't see any suspicious individuals loitering about. I can swear to that. Obviously, if the culprit had been outside the hut, there's no way that he or she could have stabbed the victim who was inside the hut. Actually, Prosecutor Ouchie, there is a way. And, in point of fact, the defense can provide evidence strongly suggesting that is precisely the way Miss Brett was killed. You're bluffing. You're bluffing, aren't you?
The defense's assertion is clearly too fantastical for the court to comprehend. You'll need to give us more guidance, counsel. What piece of evidence corroborates your theory that the victim was stabbed from outside the hut?
Well, there's a gaping hole in the back of the hut.
Take that!
Well, I've presented it now, but I haven't the first idea why I chose this piece of evidence. Huh?
Counsel, you're suggesting that this piece of evidence bears out your theory as to how the victim was stabbed?
It's something of a windfall, Your Excellency. What? I think the word you were looking for, Counsel, was downfall.
If your theory is correct and the knife was thrust into Miss Brett's back from outside the hut, there should be a visible trace somewhere.
Oh, I know exactly what he means. Okay, what? Talk about splitting hairs. It's the same split in the wall. Come on. A trace? Yes, on the hut itself. Armed with that idea, I must look through the court record again. Your Excellency, the defense would like to present a different piece of evidence.
Go ahead. What piece of evidence corroborates your theory that the victim was stabbed from outside the hut?
I mean, yeah, but come on, it's the same hole, isn't it? Right? Actually, no, I guess this would be to the slight right of that. Whatever.
Take that!
The original photographic print of the crime scene?
Yes, it's clearly visible in this print. The trace of the fatal thrust that was delivered from outside the beach hut.
Objection!
Do you take us for fools? There's no hint of any such thing. I'm not sure that everyone present would agree. Someone, at least, appears to have noticed what it is that I'm referring to.
Counsel, once again, I must call on you to be explicit for the court. Where on this photograph is the trace of the stabbing, which you claim took place from outside the hut?
Boop.
Take that!
Look closely just here. In the screen at the back of the hut, you can see the effects of a blade having been forced through the reeds. No, I can't. I can't see any such thing. It's true that the hut in question had 4 walls, as you'd expect. However, by parting the reeds, a knife blade could easily penetrate them.
This is extraordinary.
Yes. The true culprit actually stabbed the victim from outside the beach hut. And of everyone present at the scene, there is only one person who could have done that. Only one person who was directly outside the hut when Miss Brett was killed. Right in Many-Memo-san, it could only have been you. No!
Objection!
This preposterous idea leaves me almost speechless. Just look at the photograph again. The victim lies almost exactly in the center of the beach hut, does she not? Are we to assume, as part of this farcical scenario, that the assailant was a knife thrower?
Objection!
No, of course not. We're not. If you recall the testimony of the defendant about the events just before the victim's death, Inside the beach hut, I confronted Miss Brett. But she just sat on a stool at the back of the hut, smiling sweetly at me as if she knew she was untouchable. A stool? Have another look at the photograph. The slit in the reed screen would align perfectly with the back of a person who was sitting on that stool.
My word! So, in fact, the victim was
killed while sitting on that stool by a stab wound to her back delivered through the reed screen. Ah! Having been attacked, Miss Brett rose to her feet instinctively. But then, unable to speak, she collapsed on the floor in the middle of the hut, before the defendant, Membami-san's appalled eyes. And that, Your Excellency, is the truth of what happened on the beach that day. By your silence, Minimemo-san, I take it that you don't deny the charge. This is absurd.
That will do. It would appear that we have a tacit admission of guilt from the witness. Accordingly, this court has successfully established the truth of this matter, which means that the defendant, Membami-san, is innocent of the crime.
No, it's not that easy. Oh, thank goodness. I finally made him cave.
I must say, I've never been more proud.
No, this can't be. My Ouchie clan can't. What of my growth of hope? It wasn't all an apparition. I can't accept this. I won't.
I see no reason for the continuance of this trial. I will therefore move to conclude proceedings by delivering my... Uh-oh.
Well, this is all very convenient. This is how the highest court in our mighty empire delivers justice, is it? Suppressing well-meaning citizens' freedom to speak and branding them as criminals. But we've established that the victim was stabbed from outside the hut, through the reed screen walls.
And no one but you was in place at the time to have his hand on the hilt of a blade. It's a perfectly logical deduction.
So, your argument hinges on the location of whoever stabbed the Englishwoman, does it? Well, it seems a little irrelevant now. Irrelevant? Where she was stabbed, how she was stabbed, it doesn't matter. I mean, whether she was stabbed at all makes no difference if you think about it. After all, this trial's already shown the whole thing hinges on something else. What? What are you talking about? Brace yourself, little man. I'm talking about the fact that everything's changed because of the dirt you dug up. What?
Enough obscurity. Explain yourself, witness.
What's to explain? I'm talking about the poison, of course. The poison? Let's ask the professor for a comment on the situation, shall we? I understand that a deadly poison you were developing was stolen from your laboratory, correct? And it's been shown that this poison was administered to the victim, Miss Brett. Is that right?
That is correct. The unusual constriction of the victim's pupils are a sure sign that this particular poison was used.
I see. So presumably that means that the victim already had the poison in her body before she was stabbed. Ah.
Given that her pupils were clearly constricted, it seems highly likely, yes. If she had been dead already, the poison could not have circulated in her blood.
Ah, how refreshing to hear the argument of a metropolitan mind. Precisely. It matters not a jot who stabbed whom in whose back and with whose blade. Because, quite simply, the Englishwoman's life was taken not by the knife, but by the poison.
Objection!
But that can be explained by the poison being on the blade, as I already...
Objection!
Forgotten already, have we, yokel? During these very proceedings, the laboratory of the professor at your side assisted in proving that the blade of the weapon used to attack the victim had no trace of poison on it whatsoever. So let me get this down. The facts as skillfully established by the defense in this trial turn out to be a headline-making red herring. Is that about right? Well... Ugh!
Order? Order! Order! But where does this leave us? How, in that case, did the poison enter the victim's body? There is an undeniably obvious answer to that. The lady most likely imbibed it.
You mean she drank it?
Have another look at the photograph here. As you can see, a bottle of carbonated water and a glass had been knocked onto the sandy floor of the beach hut.
What kind of carbonated water makes a stain that dark? Come on. At least call it grape juice. Wait, did the Japanese in this era even have access to grape juice? I don't think grapes are native to Japan, and I don't think the trade and agriculture situation was that advanced just yet.
The poison could have been slipped into either.
So somebody made Miss Bread drink it. Well, what do you know? Look at those dashing eyes. This will make a great front page shot. Hey, why the bewitching stare? After all, I'm the last person you should be looking at. It would make no sense at all that I poisoned the woman, would it? I mean, that's been established already.
Hold it!
Established? What are you talking about? Huh? Don't tell me you've forgotten. That's a little hard to believe, given that the person who established it was you. Me? What on earth does he mean? Oh, let me capture those wide eyes. This is prime press fodder, this is.
It would seem that this trial is not destined to end yet after all. I hereby call upon the witness to give further testimony.
That's great, that is. Let me get a shot of that magnificent beard, Your Excellency.
You claim it to be impossible that you were the one responsible for administering the poison to the victim. You will explain to the court in your testimony the basis upon which you make such a claim.
I'm a journo and I'm a man. I've never tried to run or hide from anything in my life. And I'm not about to start now, because that's many memoism. For a brief moment, I thought I'd illuminated the truth, but it slipped right back into obscurity again. Just where is this trial going to take us? Something tells me this is the final cross-examination. Oh yes, I stabbed the Englishwoman, and it's that very fact that proves I'm innocent. Because why would I have bothered to stab the woman if I'd already poisoned her? When I heard the student girl and that pompous English murderer arguing, it got my goat. If the courts weren't going to punish Brett for what she did, someone else would have to see justice done. So, you admit it then? That everything happened as I described? that you are the one who stabbed Miss Brett in the back through the reed screen. You can blame this miserable country of ours. A country that bows to the pressure of foreign powers and lets murderers walk free. What kind of future can a country like that have? That's why I did it. I did what our pathetic leaders didn't have the guts to do. Slap bang in the middle of that charming lady's back, I plunged the blade of sweet justice right in there. As someone who spends his life seeing that the truth is told, I feel really awful about giving false information in my testimony before. But as it turns out, there was somebody else who had it in for the victim and got to her before me. That's right, you guessed it. That pretty little student girl. Now there's a woman after my own heart. You're implicating Ray again. She is the one who gave the poison to the Englishwoman and ended her pitiful existence. And suddenly, snap, this journo here is off the hook. The argument is sound, certainly. If the witness had administered the poison himself, he need only have waited for it to take effect. Subsequently, stabbing the victim in the back would have been entirely nonsensical. And therefore, this reporter had nothing to do with the poisoning. Yes, it's all quite logical. That's right, it is. Logical and true. I'm glad you've all seen the light. Justice at last. This is unbelievable. After I'd made so much progress in proving his guilt, is he going to get away with it now? Think of Kazuma-sama and Naruhodo-san. They never stopped looking for a way forward until the judge's final gavel.
Very well then, counsel. Proceed with what I assume to be your final cross-examination in this trial.
Yes, Your Excellency. Oh yes, I stabbed the Englishwoman, and it's that very fact that proves I'm innocent.
Hold it!
So, do you admit that you had murderous intentions towards Miss Brett then? Ha! The woman's very existence offended my sense of justice. Your sense of... He's claiming some sort of righteous indignation. She was pure evil, a cold-blooded killer who'd committed murder right there on our empire's soil. But did our good-for-nothing government do anything? Not a chance, so I had to step in. Fly by the flag of justice, put things right for the people. Yes, it was my civic duty, that's what drove me to do it. So, in summary, murderous intentions then. Whatever you want to call it, the point is this. That Englishwoman was a blight, so I had to do what was right for society. Yet a real wrong was done by this student girl in the dock, a crime for which she must pay. Obviously, because the poisoning was nothing to do with me at all. Because why would I have bothered to stab the woman if I'd already poisoned her?
Hold it!
So you still maintain that you didn't give the poison to the victim? Obviously, that'd be like putting the belt in your trousers when you were already wearing braces like these. The accused administered the poison, following which the witness stabbed the victim. An unforgivable act, certainly, but not one of murder. That crime rests on the accused's shoulders. And that is how the law works, you see, yokel. Who knows, you may even learn something here today.
2 consecutive attempts on her life in the space of minutes. Quite a day for the victim.
Do something that evil, and you've got it coming. That's how the law works, the law of reckoning. That's not the kind of law this court upholds.
You will reiterate why you were compelled to stab the victim then, witness.
When I heard the student girl and that pompous English murderer arguing, it got my goat.
Hold it!
What exactly were they arguing about? About what happened in that restaurant 9 months ago, that's what. The student girl was laying into the Englishwoman for killing her beloved mentor, Dr. Wilson.
Yes, John H. Wilson, a professor of medicine invited here from England by Professor Mikotoba, no less.
Right, but the Englishwoman had just jeered. Her case was to be heard by the British Consular Court in Shanghai. However, there was little doubt that she would simply have been acquitted and sent back to her homeland a free woman. It was eating that student girl up inside. You could see it. I really felt for her. Oh? I can't stand here and listen to this tripe. Ray. Young girl, you stand accused here. You can't just blurt out whenever you feel like it. No, you can't. Sorry, but I'm in the middle of some very important testimony here. Just keep quiet and listen. But this awful man is making all of this up. Susato, please, you have to make them listen.
Return to the dock at once, Membami-san. We are in the middle of a cross-examination.
Hold it!
And who is Susato?
Well, nope, not gonna ask, okay. Your Excellency, please, I implore you. That journalist is clearly not a trustworthy witness. Exactly. He's a filthy, rotten, black-hearted, bigoted, dirty, great, peeping Tom. Whoa, take it easy there. Please, I really think the court should hear what the defendant has to say. Your Excellency, I see no need whatsoever to entertain the accused's remarks.
I will grant the request of the defense.
Oh, but Your Excellency...
This is likely to be the final cross-examination of these proceedings. As such, I believe it would be ill-advised to stifle the defendant's obvious concerns. So, whilst recognizing that this contravenes regular protocol, I hereby call upon the defendant to speak.
Oh, thank you so much, Your Excellency. It was nothing to do with Dr. Wilson. We were discussing the stolen poison.
Hold it!
The stolen poison that killed the victim, you mean? I suspected her of being the one to steal it. I mean, just think about how she killed Dr. Wilson.
That's true. Additionally, Miss Brett certainly had knowledge of the new poison. But surely it would be no easy task to steal a highly secret toxin being developed for the government. Indeed, all visitors to the laboratory are thoroughly searched when they leave. Even if a thief managed to avoid being seen by myself or a colleague, getting the poison out would be very difficult.
That's true. I pestered Professor Mikotoba until he agreed to show me the poison when I visited his laboratory. But as I left, I was searched from top to tail.
Miss Brett rather bluntly revealed the existence of the toxin we'd been developing, you see. And since Soseki-san expressed such an interest in it, I felt unable to refuse. Obviously, I gave nothing away other than the fact that it was an extremely potent substance.
I'm very ashamed of myself. It's just that I've had a singularly terrible experience with a deadly poison. I wanted to look my old enemy in the eye. Surely you can understand that. To find out if my suspicions were true, I confronted Miss Brett about the poison. I told her that if there were to be an incident involving it somehow, it wouldn't just be the university. The military would be dragged into it. The whole government even. It would be a complete disaster.
And how did Miss Brett respond to your concerns?
She just curled those beautiful lips of hers and said she didn't know the first thing about it. In English, actually.
Ah, yes. Many Memo-san, one small question if you don't mind.
Do you understand English? I do mind. Can't you see I'm busy?
Clearly, you were outside the beach hut listening in whilst the defendant and Miss Brett were conversing. Presumably, then, it was you who wrote this article about what you've heard. Exclusive deadly poison stolen from Yumei Medical Research Laboratory. The story was published in this morning's edition of Shoyu News. The details are too accurate for it to have been written by anyone else.
Sorry, don't know what you're talking about. Yes, look at this. The entire article is almost what I said to Miss Brett, word for word. Ugh. Well, Memo-san, as a journo and as a citizen of a free country, I don't have to reveal my sources. That's a founding principle of Memoism. Father's clearly right about this. That reporter did write that article, and he based it on what he overheard from outside the hut.
Aha!
So that's what it was all about. You were trying to cover up the fact that you were listening in. That's why you came up with that stinking story about me arguing with her. Shut up. My stories never stink. Look, whatever you say, little girl, it doesn't alter the facts. Your Excellency, there's something I want to say, and I want it to go on record.
Very well, you may amend your formal testimony.
The point is, if you'd poisoned someone, there'd be no reason to then go and stab the person as well.
Hold it!
Perhaps you doubted the efficacy of the poison and sought to make sure your victim would die. That's horse done. What? That would be like pouring pepper in your Chinese ramen before you'd even tasted it. Completely reckless. Although, it might surprise you to learn that I am a bit of an impetuous pepper pourer, as it happens. You know, I do enjoy putting some chili flakes in my top ramen. I like top ramen. Chicken flavor. It's good. Oh man. Oh man. After I finish recording this video, I could go have some. Oh, and I put an egg in it? Oh, my mouth's watering. Uh-oh. Rain it in, Zephyr. Oh. Once the victim had taken the poison, she would have been only minutes away from death. And yet, this man then proceeded to stab her in the back as well. There has to have been a good reason for that.
If it was the reporter who gave the poison to Miss Brett, then clearly, he must have done it prior to Ray entering the hut.
Yes, that's undeniable.
But between him leaving the hut and the victim being stabbed, there was one very crucial change in the situation.
Sorry? What change?
The reporter overheard the conversation between Ray and the Englishwoman.
Yes, that's it. That's when Memo-san first found out the exact nature of the poison he'd used. That could be the key here.
Oh, okay. If the victim had unwittingly taken the poison already, the reporter would have had no reason to stab her. On the face of it, that logic sounds entirely reasonable.
But there's no question that this man was responsible for Miss Brett's murder.
If we could think of a plausible explanation as to why he might have stabbed her even after the poisoning, I feel sure that everything would drop into place. That's what we should be looking for.
Yes, I agree. And in order to do that, I must try to glean more information. So the article about the leaked conversation. Let's see. The smallest amount entering the body, either via the mouth or via a wound from a poison-laced blade, would prove fatal in minutes. Alkaloids. Could the change be no change? I don't think there was any ever mention from Ray about Giselle Brett having impaired breathing. I mean, she was stabbed in the lung and couldn't speak after that and only had to point at the wall behind her, but I don't remember Ray or anyone else talking about shortness of breath with her. Huh. But alkaloid. Shoot, man, do alkaloids get counteracted by carbonation? Or is carbonation alkaloid? I feel like this is too meta. Like, it relies too much on meta-knowledge outside the game. How do alkaloids interact with carbonation? Well, nothing to read there. Interesting. Why would I have bothered to stab the woman if I had already poisoned her? If you'd poisoned someone, there'd be no reason to then go and stab the person as well. There would be reason if you could tell that the poison failed. Okay, I'm gonna trust my gut here. The game's signposting that this is the key.
Objection!
Alright, hold up. Sorry for the abrupt cut here, but you know the drill. I did that standard thing where I went on too long just believing that it was about to end any second, so I recorded way too long. Actually, I was able to split this video into 2 parts, so this was the first part, and I'm ending things here, so yeah, in lieu of a normal ending, I'm Zephyr the Jester. This has been more of the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll catch you next time. So until then, please take care.